Hello and welcome to Unify's webinar on Report Builder formulas. I'm your host, Matt Brunquell, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I'll be introducing our featured speaker today, Kevin McCormick, in just a second. But before we do that, just a few housekeeping items. Kevin and I do like to have an interactive session, so feel free to ask questions. And the way you do that is there's a little WebEx toolbar in the bottom right-hand corner. And what you want to do is use the button. It's got a bunch of buttons on there. Use the one with the question mark. That's the Q&A button. There's also a chat button, but it just makes it easier for Kevin and I to look into one panel to make sure we cover all your questions. And there's a lot of you on today, so we anticipate a lot of questions, and we welcome that. Use that Q&A button. Also, some of you are new to Unify just from going through the list of participants. So I just want to give you a background about the host today, Unify Corporation. We're a publicly traded software company. We've been in business for around 27 years, and we're known for being the first to deliver a relational database in the Unix environment. And since then, we've delivered development software products that run across different databases and platforms, all really geared towards building and modernizing business applications and geared towards those business app developers, the ones that are trying to deliver results and apps to the end users without having to do a lot of low-level coding. They're more focused on getting things out quickly into the hands of the end users without having to go through a long development cycle. And, you know, a lot of the customers we have actually been with us for many, many years. We have customers running old releases of our software on applications they've had running for 15 years. And so what Unify has really been focused on when I mentioned the modernization piece is how do we take these applications that you've invested in and carry them forward into the next technology wave or platform wave, if you will. So we've carried customers in their applications from the character-based terminal servers to client server to the web, and so forth. And so we have a lot of experience in that area, and in recent years we've even taken that into other technologies that aren't our own. But today we're going to focus on Report Builder, and I'm going to let Kevin go over the agenda on that since he's the presenter. But first I'd like to introduce Kevin. It's a real privilege for us to have him today speaking. Kevin's been with us for like 16 years. And has been in various technical roles here. He's done training, he's done tech support, he's done consulting, he's done pre-sales engineering, and actually he does a little bit of all of those roles now with many of our key accounts in North America, as well as other countries when called upon. So a lot of experience in working with customers across many of our different products in delivering the requirements that they need. And prior to Unify, he actually was on the end user side, working as a system administrator with Unify products. So he's really seen both sides of the fence. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Kevin and let him go over the agenda.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. And good morning, everyone. Evening, afternoon, and happy first day of fall for those of you that are still on the 22nd day of September here. So our agenda for this webinar, we'll go a brief overview of the Report Builder product, then we'll go over formulas, which is what this webinar is all about, a little bit about the formula editor, how you create these and modify them, and then more details about the functions that are built into the formula abilities of Report Builder, and then we'll go a little bit into dynamic reports, working with strings and hiding and showing areas of the report. And then we'll go to questions. And as Matt pointed out when you were going over this yesterday, I didn't put answers. Yes, we'll give answers as well. So.
That is a Q&A.
Q&A, yes. Note the bolded Q for our upcoming Q products. So our about Report Builder. So if you've used other reporting tools, Crystal Report, JReport, JFree Report, so some of the other either open source or other ones, commercial products out there, the Report Builder product is very similar in the sense you're working with data and doing control break processing in a graphical environment And then certainly, as we're talking about today, making it dynamic by using logic embedded into the report itself. It's an easy-to-use IDE, drag and drop, properties panels, that kind of thing. If you're feeding data into the database directly, so not through Team Developer, SQL Windows, there's a database connectivity part to it as well that works through ODBC to the standard flair of relational databases, SQL Base, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, Sybase, those kinds of ones. And as you'll see, even going through our relatively short demo today, working with Report Builder is an iterative process. You try something, run it inside the Report Builder, decide if you like it or not, switch back to design mode, change it, try again. So as we said in the last one, lather, rinse, repeat, like on the shampoo bottle. So, and one thing we haven't gotten to in another webinar, which will be downstream of this one, is how well Report Builder is integrated into the Team Developer product for feeding data and information about your report to the Report Builder. For today's webinar, we're going to work with it standalone, so going against the SQL-based Island database directly. Okay, so to the meat of the webinar, the formula abilities of Team Developer Report Builder. So with formulas, the formulas allow you to dynamically, or report execution time, build information about your reports, whether for presentation, so concatenating values, looking up values to make them more readable in the report, as well as control how the report looks, whether items are shown, how they're highlighted, what fonts are changed, background colors, and these can all be done dynamically through formulas. And we'll go through what functionalities are available. In order to accomplish that, there's a lot of functions to make things easier for manipulating data, whether it's strings or numbers or dates and so on. And in doing so, as we'll see in the formula editor as well, you can reference the input items, the data items and input variables very easily in the formula editor. So where do you use these formulas? I sort of alluded to that in the previous slide, but we can use these for the background fields, for the label values. Again, these might be for headers, they might be for concatenated values to show a city, state, and zip. We'll show that as an example in just a bit. We can use this in aggregate functions of formulas, averages, counts, minimums, maximums. They also are used, the formulas can also be used in the query editor. We won't cover that in this webinar because that has a different set of functions available, and that is specific to the query editor itself. And then there's the dynamic abilities in the Report Builder for, again, saying properties of them, the fonts, the background colors, the visibility of things from whether the report blocks to individual lines in each block, as well as the data elements in each line in the report. So that's sort of the feel for where you can use formulas. Now, if we look at a formula that sort of has all the pieces of it together, on the left side we have the tree showing the formulas. We have one highlighted that says non-USA countries. In the middle is the editor, the formula editor, that does a string comparison and also a conditional check. We'll go into more details about how that works later, so we won't focus that on here. And the right side screen is where it's displayed in the report, just showing whether or not to show the country at the end of an address block. Now we also have a simple one on the bottom left that's a concatenation operation, but we'll see that one again as well. We just want to give you a picture before you had all these words coming up here. So the formula editor, how do you actually create and modify and work with the formulas? Well, we just saw this slide, a little bit bigger picture now. What we have are sort of regions within the formula editor. We'll see a couple of them in the next slide. The top area is starting where you edit the formula. The middle items are for placing items into that edit area, whether it's data items, formulas, or functions. And again, we'll see a quick snapshot of those in a moment. And then there's niceties for being able to do things without having using the keyboard and just keep using the mouse for edit operations, or putting the operators, the plus, the minus, concatenation, and so on. And then there's the ability to toggle between reports. That's the buttons in the middle. Whether you want to choose a formula from the middle, drop that middle list box and edit it, rather than having to close out the editor window and double-click on another one in the tree. You also can view other formulas to see if they're correct before placing them into your editor as well. There's a lot of little abilities that make it easier to use the formula editor and just makes it quicker for you, the report designer. Okay, so how do you actually construct a formula? Well, it depends on what your goal is, but usually it'll be a combination of things like static text for labels or to make things more readable. Some data items, these are the input items that come into the report, whether from a query, as we'll see here, or fed in from external sources like Team Developer. You may have input variables, which are usually fed in through Team Developer, and that makes the reports even more flexible. So these are the data items that are inside there. And then there may be totals and aggregates that you've created for your report for group sections that would be included in your formula as well. You can embed formulas within formulas, so that's why that middle list box is there. If you have a formula that calculates a value and you want to use that to drive another calculation, no troubles there. And then there's a series of built-in functions, and we'll see a list of those, an almost complete list of those in just a little bit here. So by assembling all these pieces more than once, you can create either very simple reports, formulas, or very complex ones. There's no limitation, but as long as you can calculate the logic, you can do it inside the editor here. Okay, the functions. What's actually available inside the formula editor as far as functions for doing different operations on different data types. There's a lot of different functions. We'll see a list for each of the different data type operations. The functions return one of three data types. Either return a number, and you'll use that frequently for doing conditional processing. There's an if function for each data type, and we'll focus a slide on that in just a bit. There's string returns from your concatenation values, for example, or substringing or trimming strings. So that's one possible return type. And then there's date-time operations. Whether you're constructing dates, doing differences on dates, comparing them, those functions are able to work with those as well as return date and time values. And just like formulas, and as you might expect, functions can be nested inside each other. And in fact, it's very common usage to do a comparison and then use that for an outside comparison to decide what other value to show, particularly when we get to the if statement here. Okay, how do we group the function types? Well, we have a series of them for date and times. We have ones for aggregates, so the min, max, sum, total, that kind of operation. We have number operations, and then we have string manipulation functions. So we're going to go through each of those on separate slides so you get a feel for what's available. Now, all of these are documented, both with examples and even more descriptions here. So I thought it would be good to sort of give you in this webinar a list of the functions for each type so you get a feel for it. So just like many products, once you know what to look for, it makes things much easier to look them up inside any sort of help documentation. So date-time functions. There's ones working with getting dates, so current date, current time, that kind of things. And then there's ones to take apart a date, whether it's the year, month, or day of a date. There's also operations on the date, whether it's adding a day to figure out how many days before something's due. So we're not going to go over all of these. That's for the user to test and play with. The one that we'll sort of look at in general is the date IFF function that I put in the top right here for doing comparisons of dates and then deciding what to return based on those. Okay, aggregate functions. There's two levels of aggregate functions, and these actually exist if you construct them separately as total elements inside the tree, inside the report builder, inside the designer. So there's group aggregates, so that's the average count, min, max, and sum, and then there's report level ones. So the group ones will do it based on where you place the item and where the grouping is on, whether it's the company ID or invoice number, and so on, whereas the report aggregates will be on the entire report. So it makes it very easy to get those and potentially use those within formulas. Okay, for numbers, same kind of thing that we have the dates and as we'll see with strings. It's the conversion one, so for example, to strings or to a formatted string using the string picture. It took me a moment when I was reading through this to remember that picture is actually a format mask rather than something graphical. Then there's the modifications of the values, whether you're rounding it, truncating it, and then there's the comparison one again. And again, we'll do a separate slide on the IFF function for the different data types. For the strings, and this is where you'll do a lot of work really when you start working with your data, there's the taking pieces of strings out of a string, whether starting to the left or the right or the middle. All these are substring operations. Searching for strings to confirm that they exist, trimming them, getting rid of white space, case conversion, upper, lower, converting to proper case with initial capitals, and then converting to the different types, whether it's a date or a number, and then again the comparison one yet again. And speaking of that comparison function, I mentioned that, and again this one, as we were preparing the slides, this one comes up very frequently, this IFF function, whether it's a datetime, number, or a string function. They all behave the same, it just depends on what the return value is. There's always 4 parameters in these functions. The first one is the number to compare to 0. So that's why you'll see in a lot of formulas you're doing string comparisons or subtractions for numbers to decide what value to return, because there is no true equal comparison in the formula editor. So you'll use this function frequently to decide what to return either to another formula or to show on the report. So in my example here, and just borrowing from our documentation, if that num value is less than 0, if the comparison value is less than 0, return the first value. If it's equal to 0, return the middle value. And if it's greater than 0, return the right side value. So with the example at the very bottom of the slide, we have an embedded function, the string compare function. We're comparing Smith to Jones, knowing that they're not going to match, but they would be compared to each other, and Smith is greater than Jones, just by an ASCII sort. So in this case, it's going to return the word phone, because that's in a string there. So a simple example, but just trying to show how you both nest functions as well as using the IFF functions. Okay. One thing we want to cover a little bit on, and because we know a lot of your reports either already have this in if you're working with existing reports or ones that you're going to construct from scratch, you're going to do a lot of things with string manipulation. So we have some slides and some sample formulas that do things like concatenation, case conversion, parsing of data, and then doing one of the nice functions inside the reporting tool is doing lookups for getting better display values when you use codes for match values. So concatenation, probably one of the first things you'll do, and one of the most common ones, and that's just using the double pipe symbol for concatenation. So in this case, we're taking 3 data input items, the city, state, and zip, concatenating them together into one string, putting commas and spaces between them, placing them into a company ID header section, and with the city, state, and zip column, and then running it, just showing this concatenated value on the right side there and highlighted. So basic concatenation operation. Okay, case conversion and parsing. So in this case, we want to get the employee abbreviation, so just to get their first letter and their last name concatenated together. So we're using the string left function, so using the first name value and getting just the first character, concatenating with the space and then with the last name, and taking the results of that and doing it to uppercase with the stir upper function. In that case, we're getting the salesman for a specific invoice, and just showing it in the middle and highlighted. So that's using a couple of the functions. As you can see, once you start building these together, the formulas can get a long ways, and you can put returns in your formulas to make it more legible. Okay, doing a lookup operation. In this case, I did a very quick example with hard-coded states, picking some of the data that's in the island database. The lookup one gives a nice way to take values that are stored either as numerics or abbreviations and then give it the actual value to display. So in this case, I picked a couple of U.S. states because of where some of the the companies were from the island database. So in this case, you actually have the string translate function. It takes in 3 values. The first one is what you're looking up. The second item is the one to match the value with, in this case, the abbreviation list. I hard-coded this, but likely if you're going from team developer, you'd pass this in as an input variable. So you only have to pass it in once. And then there is the actual value to return, which in this case is going to be the state names. So it's positional, so position matters here. It's going to find the element in the first list, in the abbreviation list, figure out its offset, then go look up the same one in the state names. And just a simple example there from our output. California, and we show the California full word there, and Hawaii and the District of Columbia as well. But again, a very useful one for those that store items of statuses that are numbers that aren't necessarily understandable to those who are looking at the report. Okay, working with dynamic reports and how to either hide and show things or highlight values inside your report. Okay, just a couple things to go over here. Conditional hiding. We touched a little bit on this in the last webinar. Go into more detail here, and we'll also explain how you do conditional formatting in your reports. Okay, conditional hiding. You can hide different objects at different levels. So you have the entire section blocks can be hidden. The lines within section blocks can be hidden, and then the individual fields can be hidden. There is a property on each of these called the conditional display. The item in question, whether it's a block or line or field, is displayed unless the value from this function, wherever this formula is, if it's 0. So only if it's 0 does it hide the value, or in the case if you return a string or if it's a null value. And in that case, it will suppress the display. So you can hide entire sections doing this. So what we'll see when we walk through the demo is I use this for hiding sections when I'm trying to make the layout better so I can look at it quicker. So hiding detail sections just to make it easier to work with. And then sometimes you may pass in values whether the user wants to see detail work or headers or customize the report with addresses or not showing addresses and things of that nature. Okay, so an example of doing this, we have a formula that just does a comparison of a quantity price, subtracting 200 from it, and if that's the case, if it's less than that, we're going to return a 1, so we'll show it. Otherwise, we're going to hide it. And we're just showing that being displayed in the field itself, and this is a quantity price. And so this is actually taken from our last webinar because this is the one we demonstrated. And we'll show some other examples of this when we work with the product directly in a minute. Okay, if you're doing a section, hiding an entire section, you can do this. And I'm showing the input variable here because this is likely how you're going to pass it in if you're coming from team developer. You'll do an input variable that says show details or not, and then in the detail block, I have it highlighted, we're going to put that input variable. So it doesn't have to be a formula in this case, it can just be a value that's being passed in. And again, it can be, if it's passed in a 0 to hide it, otherwise show it. Okay, formatting. How do you dynamically change how the output of a report looks, or how either the lines or the fields or the sections look? You can change sort of two things or two groupings of objects inside your formatting. You can change the font and or the font style, so what fonts used, or whether it's bold, italics, or bold and italics, or just regular. That's one possibility. And you also can change colors of 3 items. The text color, so the foreground color, the background color, and then the color of the border if you're using one. So, slide here is in the wrong spot. We'll ignore that one for now. So conditional formatting. If we look at the properties for a field and look at the colors tab, you'll notice for the background color, the border color, and the text color, there's a formula for each of those. So by placing a formula in there that returns 0 or non-zero, you can decide whether to use conditional formatting. And in fact, I'm going to go back to this slide here because this is actually correct. I was thinking previous slide, so a minor correction here. We'll format it right. So on conditional formatting, I want to go back to this because it's important to realize how this works. If you have special formatting set, either a different font specified or different color specified, if you have a formula in the properties and it's not 0 and not null, that formatting will be used. Otherwise, so it's 0, the formatting will not be used. So it's not that you can dynamically choose a different color, it's whether that color that you've chosen will be applied or not. So you can't say do red or blue. You'd set it up as one of those, and then based on whether you want to show that special formatting, that's what the formula does. I'm hoping that makes sense. If not, we can demonstrate that as well. Okay. So in this case, this formula is a silly formula. It's actually taken from one of our examples. If the number of the company ID minus 103, so if it equals 103, we want to go ahead and highlight it. Otherwise, we're not going to highlight it. So we're just highlighting company number 103, which is Fasten Outlet in Washington, D.C. So you'll notice in the output here, Pennsylvania Avenue the address is highlighted. So this is the address field. Okay, so now we want to go ahead and walk over to the demo and just walk through a couple of things in the report builder so you can get a feel for how it behaves as you begin to use it. Now what we're going to use, because it's now available as Team Developer 5.2, if you haven't downloaded it, go ahead and do so. The report builder is now skinned completely, so that's what you'll see walking through here. Okay, so I'm going to work with, just for expediency, is a pre-done report that I have. And this is a simple one, doing control break processing on the island company, so the company invoices and invoice items. And as I've said before in my other webinars, do not allow me to create reports. They won't necessarily, they'll be functionally correct. Appearance-wise, someone with an eye for color might be better suited for that. So what we have, though, just before we do anything with this, we have company number, company name, invoice number, invoice date, and then the line items for each of the items in each particular invoice. And we'll toggle back to the layout here. So first thing we're going to do is sort of add some items for the company information, use the insert key to put in a couple of lines, and then we're going to add a formula. So as we saw, it's very easy to construct these, or as we're going to see now. We're just going to do city, type it with single quote, comma, single quote, type it with, and we can type them in here too. We don't have to use the dialog, it just makes it easier. Concatenate it with a string, concatenate it again with the, and I'll just go choose the zip value here. And at that point, one thing to make note of is always remember to give it a name. Formula 41, while it's unique, is not exactly descriptive. And you can rename them if you forget to do it, because I tend to forget to name them at the time.
It sounds like a shampoo or hair tonic or something.
Or
41.
Formula 41. This is back to the lather and repeat methodology of doing the reports there. So if you have an error in your report, it won't let you save it. So if we forgot to do a single quote here, we'll backspace that out. We'll get an error saying incomplete or invalid formula. So then you figure out what it is, fix it, and do OK. In case I don't get it correct, add a comment here, and then we'll save it. Now our formulas will show up inside here. And what you'll notice, all these numbered ones, these are actually the input items. So when you create using the query, your input items end up becoming formulas. So we're going to go put this city, state, and zip in here. And nothing very fancy there. We'll put that there for a moment. We're going to go construct another formula, though. And we're going to do an address formula. I'm going to say it's full address. Now in this case, we want to take the address value. We also want to concatenate it with the return. So we're going to do And it's Control-Enter to do a return in here. So we want to do a return, and we concatenate that with our other formula that we have. So not too fancy, but now we've taken a value, a return, and with our other formula, called the full address formula, we're going to drop that in next to here. Now we do need to go format this, because if we don't modify the width of this, it's going to do a word wrap and not end up vertically correct. So we're going to go to the properties, go to the width. We're actually going to change the width to the number there, and then we're actually going to stretch this out because I know for some of the street names it's a little bit bigger there. And we'll make this less justified. And now if we go run this, again, going with the shampoo methodology, we now have our simple one. We also now concatenated this into one line. And again, this is meant for showing, not for how a report truly would work, but just showing some of the abilities of the formulas. So we'll toggle back. Let's say we wanted to conditionally decide whether we wanted to show this address information or not. Again, this might be a formula or might be an input variable. We're going to construct a very simple formula that just says show address. And we're just going to give it to a return value back of 1 by default. I should make the 0 to hide it there. So we have show address. Now if we go to the properties of the line, notice that the line selected here. It'll bring up the properties of there, and it has a conditional hiding ability here. So conditional display, we're going to do show address function, do OK, and now we preview it. If I did it correctly, the address is now hidden. And again, I'm forcing that there, but as I mentioned earlier, sometimes this is actually a useful ability. You're trying to get things lined up during your testing, and it's hard to tell if they're good. It's good to hide sections sometimes because it just makes it more visually and less pages to scroll through just to validate it. Okay, so the next formula we're going to demonstrate is just to show some conditional formatting. So we're going to create a formula that uses some math functions here. So we're going to say that these are number mod. We're going to say, and this one actually we can do pretty easily, if the company ID, it's all the way down here because it is qualified. If the company ID mod, so modulus operator, so if we're divided by 2, if it's even, then we are going to do some special formatting. Or if it's not even, we're going to do special formatting. You have to remember the logic. This is where that return value, the 0, 1 stuff, you have to get used to. So we'll call it odd formatting, odd number. In fact, just because other people in the room, let's call it odd company here. No offense to anyone in the room here. So we have an odd company formula. We're now going to apply this to the company ID. What we're going to do is just go to its properties, and we're going to set it to some nice good color for early in the morning California time here. So we're going to go to the colors, say that its background color is lime green if this formula is true. So this is, if I know my alphabet here, odd company, and now we have it set, and we'll preview it. And so I even had the logic correct there, so 101 gets highlighted, and as we scroll down, we'll see that it did the same for the other ones, 103 and so on. And this is really just to give you a feel that by doing things like this, you can highlight values, highlight totals, summaries, values beyond ranges, anything you can come up with by using creativity with the formulas and functions, you can come up with what formatting that you want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go now to the questions and see what we have here, and that may drive some other examples here if we need to.
Great. So again, to post your questions, use the question mark button on your toolbar, and we're going to go silent for about 1 minute here because we already have some questions, so we'll start reading through them, but also give you a chance to post questions, and we'll run through them at the time that we have left. All right, we're back on. We're going to go ahead and start going through the questions. What I'll do is I'll read the questions, and then Kevin or I, depending on the question, will answer it.
Yep.
If we can't, we will let you know and get back to you on it.
Absolutely.
So the first question, can any formulas return an object, for example, if I compare a status field if the status is?
Yeah, that's a continuation. If I want to display a particular icon to an object, or if status is B, a different icon, right? So you basically want to conditionally show one icon or another. And the answer is no, but there's a way to do it. So the formulas return either a number, a date, time, or a string. But what I've done before in this tool as well as other reporting tools is have the images on separate lines so they can conditionally hide one or hide the other. So you have to have both images there, but you either choose to do one or the other based on that. So there's negation for one and the positive for the other, depending on which way you're doing.
Great. All right, next question. Can we get a copy of this PowerPoint? Absolutely. And there are two ways you can do that. One is we're going to make a recorded version of this webinar available on our website. We do these monthly, and so you can find any of the ones we've done prior available pre-recorded. So you would get the PowerPoint as well as Kevin's context, which obviously is of value. And that'll be available next week, by the beginning of the week. And then the other thing you can do is you can always contact your Unify representative and ask for a copy of the PowerPoint. And you'd be able to get just the PowerPoint itself as well. Okay, next question. Well,
I think we
sorry,
we
got a lot of questions here. Okay, is there any possibility to export data directly to Excel from Report Builder? I'll answer that. We don't have that today. It reports directly to PDF.
Right.
And actually, with the Q product coming out, you're going to be able to do that. And Q is Report Builder is a subset of Q. For those of you that used Quest in the past, Q is like the next generation of Quest that we're reintroducing. In fact, it should be available within the next couple of weeks. So now that 5.2 is out.
And we'll have a webinar on that as well.
Yeah, but that gives you the ability to export directly to Excel. Report Builder does not have that built in there today, although there might be indirect ways to do that.
Exactly, yeah. From team developers and other ways we can do that, but...
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, next question. How do you...
this one?
Hold on. Kevin, happy scrolling here. How did you make that address function drop down to the next line for the city, state, zip?
Well, so this is actually a feature I learned of Report Builder as I was walking through this. Report Builder will actually expand it to go to the number of lines that it needs to. So it actually will add more lines as necessary to that group. It won't span groups. There's also, I won't go into that here, but depending on what you said to dynamic for width and for allowing it to cross lines, there's even more control over this operation. So the basic answer was I didn't do anything. I just created multiple lines, placed on one line, and it added the extra lines as necessary.
So Report Builder does that for you?
Yes, and there's a maximum number of lines you can tell it to span, too.
Okay, next question. Is it still the case that only one SQL query is allowed per report?
Yes, that is still true, that you have one query. So if you're doing things other than this, you end up not really using the query per report. You end up feeding the data through team developer or otherwise. So you have to combine them. Or if you can do it through a stored procedure, you store procedure and pass data in that way. So that it looks like, I'm sorry, not stored procedure, view, so that it looks like a table to the report builder.
Okay, will the PowerPoint be available for later? We addressed that question. Again, we'll have the recorded version available on our website. I'll just mention that where you go is under when you go to the Unify website, under Events, Archived Webinars, and you'll just look for the Report Builder section in there, and you'll find that there. And again, you should see it there by Monday. If we create a report in 5.2 Report Builder, will someone with a prior version be able to open the report? And are there any functions that are obsolete in 5.2 that we should know of? Thank you. So, yes, if you create a report in 5.2, someone with a prior version is not going to be able to, well, they might be able to open it, but they're more than likely going to run into issues. We've actually had customers on older versions where they download the latest version on the trial download, do something with the report, and then when they try to rerun it in that older version, it doesn't work.
Right.
And in some cases, they've had a problem in the older version. They go to the later version, it runs great, they make some changes and try to redeploy it back in the older version. It's not going to work.
Yeah, save it off in your old one, and you have to reapply it there. Is there anything obsolete in 5.2? So did we deprecate anything? No. All the things you did in 1.5 and 2 and 3.1 and 4.2 and so on will continue to work. So I have not seen anything that's been listed as deprecated that you would lose any functionality here.
All right. Next question. Do you know if Report Builder 5.2 is compatible with Visual Enterprise? We currently have Gupta Report Builder 2005 version 4.0.0. So Visual Enterprise is the Infor application. And the example I just mentioned before were primarily visual customers who would try to do some stuff in 5.2 and then redeploy it back into 4.0. So that scenario doesn't work. The Report Builder 5.2 might, if you were trying to create your own reports, you might be able to do that against the Visual Enterprise, but it's not something that is tested or supported yet by Infor. However, I can tell you that they were involved in the beta program of 5.2, and they are looking at possibly incorporating that into an upcoming release of Visual. But it's not tested and supported with a current release of Visual Enterprise yet.
Thank you, Matt. I'm glad Matt was here for that question.
In 5.2, will we be able to copy/paste from one Report Builder form to another if the input values are in both forms?
Let me read through that again. Copy and paste from one Report Builder form to another if the input values are in both forms. I have not tried this. Based on your question, I'm assuming this was not available in prior ones. So we'd have to get back to you on that because I don't know. I see what you're trying to do. I would expect you'd get an error if the input item was not in the other report.
So we'll have to get back to you on that.
Yep. So next one here. How can we have the total page number from the beginning of the running query instead of running the query 2 times? This is the 2-pass one I think you're referring to here. And I believe now the total page, I'm not sure which version you're coming from here. The total page number, I believe is available now, but you're thinking you have to do a 2-pass. I'm sorry, I'm thinking out loud here at the same time. This is what I'd have to verify. We added some things in later versions of Report Builder so you didn't have to do that. So you had the page numbers available before the end of the report, the total number there. So this is another one we'll have to get back to you, or just simply if you want to do a test on the download version, if you haven't upgraded to 5.2 yet. I believe the page number is available throughout, the total page number is available throughout, but it's possible you still have to do the 2-pass for that.
We'll have to get back to you on that. By the way, the 5.2 version of Report Builder is available for download on our website. You know, we always have the latest releases available for a 45-day free download for you if you want to try it. Okay, next question. Will Q work with Visual Enterprise? So, again, Q isn't out yet, but yes, it should work with Visual Enterprise. Again, the Import Visual product, there are a lot of customers that are on SQL base. There's some customers on SQL Server, and there are a few unlucky ones on Oracle for Visual. But Q would work across all of those databases, and so yes, you could do queries, simple queries, and import and export and stuff like that off of those databases, as long as you know your way around. Okay, next question. Can a lookup formula be used for a Boolean?
Yeah, so Shelby, you might want to give me an example of what you're thinking of using that for. Basically, it's going to try and find a match. So this is sort of a Boolean test. Does it exist in that first list of values? If it does, we'll do an offset. But if you're trying to do like a 0 and 1 for a yes and no, I would just create 2 arrays, 2 string comma separated lists of the different values depending on what your goal is. But there's not really a true Boolean inside the Report Builder. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Some did personal ones versus private Q&A, so that's why we're scrolling through, making sure we cover everything here.
Right. Oh, there's one. I don't remember that one. Report Builder came with our order entry software, so we use it to produce our customers' order confirmations and invoices. Can Report Builder only be used in conjunction with software that is set to use Report Builder, or can I pull data directly into Report Builder by opening any database?
Right. So whatever database Report Builder is using, you'd be able, from Report Builder, to construct a direct connection to that database and do reports against it. That's really what I did here with the demo. I have SQL base running on my laptop and have a query that's tied directly to it. So, yeah, absolutely, you can do that.
Right. The other, just to make sure we're answering the question you're asking, the other possibility that you might be asking is if you have, because Report Builder comes integrated in with Team Developer, you could have an application like this order entry application that's been built in Team Developer.
Yep.
And whoever developed it, whatever company developed that, deployed with the app for you all these canned pre-done reports in Report Builder. So if that's the case and you want to do your own reports and start doing stuff, you would need to get a copy or a license of the report developer in order to be able to do that. Exactly. If you want to go beyond the canned reports that were provided in your app, just make sure that you have a copy of Report Builder to be able to do that, or you would need one in order to be able to do that.
Do any of those.
So you might need to check with your app vendor, if you will, to see whether they provided you a license of Report Builder, or you might be able to purchase one through them, or you can purchase one directly through us.
Yep, good point. You gotta have the tool to be able to make the reports.
Yeah. So you may not necessarily have that if you just have reports from your deployed app. Okay, we are on Gupta Report Builder 3.10, which is quite okay. How do I get a more current version? Well, there's a couple ways that you can do that, depending on how you came across or got your Report Builder 3.10. So if you got it through a partner, you can go back to them and see what arrangements they have to get you an updated license, or you can purchase one from us. And by the way, a Report Builder license, just so you know what the list price is for it, is $149 if you were to just buy one directly from us. So it's pretty cheap. Oh, so someone caught my comment. What do you mean by a few unlucky ones on Oracle? That's not exactly what I said, but I said, yeah, a few are on Oracle, or a few, maybe I did say it exactly that way. Can you elaborate? I'm just saying that because the visual application is used by a lot of companies, and one of the things that a lot of those customers like, or just the profile of a lot of those customers, is they don't have an extensive IT staff. And so that's why a lot of them are on our SQL-based database, or even on SQL Server to some degree. But if you are running Oracle, you definitely need a DBA to maintain that database. It's not a great database for an embedded database for your ERP application. So that's what I mean by that. That's my comment on that.
Right. So another question here that will help those that are just getting used to Report Builder, or even those who want to refresh their learning, is, does a user's manual exist for Report Builder to explore its full capabilities? Absolutely. And there's sort of two parts to that, and I'm going to toggle away from the PowerPoint real quick. Inside Report Builder itself, there is the online help. So if I get to my window here and bring up online help, and it's the Windows help kind of functionality. You can do searches and whatever you're trying to look for here. And it'll bring it up, and you can double click, and it will give you a description and examples. There's also help on our Unify website. So you can go there, and in our support section there, let me do this real quick. Unify.com, support center. Just entered it. So documentation, and then there's a whole section there for the Report Builder as well.
Yeah, there's no charge to access that documentation.
Exactly.
And you can see there's docs, there's white papers, alerts and bulletins. Since we're here, the other thing, go back to the home page.
Yep.
Or just click on the Unify logo up here. I want to show them how to get to the pre-recorded webinar. So you go to News and Events, and then Webinars and Events, and then Webinars. News. And then there's live ones to register for. In fact, we have a TD and a SQL base, but you just missed the Report Builder series. Anyway, you can go through, oh, there it is. So you can go through and find the ones.
And there's an archive part as well here.
Yeah, there's an archive part. And so this one will be available there again by Monday at the latest, probably by the end of this week. But anyway, we just want you to see that, how you can get to those.
Right. And so the Report Builder documentation has a whole series of parts underneath the Report Builder section here. It describes the IDE, creating formulas and templates, programming with ActiveX inside Report Builder, working with Report Builder through that interface. And there's tutorials. So there's a lot of ways to get familiar with it. Particularly since we've done these couple of webinars to give you a feel for things, but as you drill down, you'll want to come here to the documentation as well as the the searchable one inside the product itself.
Right. In fact, I think you can actually get to it even easier just by going to, go back to the home page. If you go to Products and Report Builder, and I think over here,
documentation.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's the 4.x version, but
right.
Anyway, or the help. I guess it's a help file.
Exactly. You get to them there. So however you
there's
slice it or dice
multiple ways to get to it.
Just like in Report Builder, there's a lot of ways to do things with formulas. We'll tie it all together here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're running out of time. So what we're going to do is go ahead and close this up. And I think we've gotten to all the questions. So in wrapping it up. We want to thank you for participating. And we're just clicking through to make sure we're not missing any questions here for you. One of the things we want you to know about upcoming events and webinars, we have our DevCons here coming up worldwide. The first ones are in Europe, coming up in October, and then we have one here in North America at our corporate headquarters near Sacramento the first week of November. And it's a great opportunity to come see the products hands-on, meet with our technical staff, including folks like Kevin, who will be presenting on the latest releases, but also be presenting the directions and roadmaps for all of our products, including Report Builder. And not only that, but an opportunity to get in front of executives at all of these as well and talk to them about, what you guys want to see, as well as what they're seeing out there and, what directions they're taking the company. So definitely go to our link, check these out if you can make them. They are definitely worthwhile. It's only a 2-day session. The one in North America, there is no charge for it. And it's a great time to come to Northern California.
Exactly. The weather is much better than it is currently.
Yes. So keep that in mind. Also, we do these webinars monthly. And so if there are particular topics you'd like to see covered, please let us know. And the best way to do that is when you exit out of this webinar, you're going to get a little survey window that comes up that asks how we did. So let us know how we did, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you were expecting. And again, if there are certain topics you'd like to see covered more, let us know. I mean, this one we did today was actually driven out of a comment from the last one on Report Builder. And so we definitely take that input and try and come out with stuff that you guys find of value. So we hope you found this one today of value. And we thank you again for participating. If you're interested in some of the other webinars coming up, we have one on Thursday, the same location and time. And that one is on SQL Base. And I can't remember the specific topic, but it'll come to me in a second. And then the one next Tuesday is on Team Developer, and it's going to cover what's changed in all the different releases of Team Developer from 1.5 up to the latest 5.2 release. And Kevin will be giving that one. The one on SQL Base is about implementing Unicode in the latest release of SQL Base. We have SQL Base 11.5 out, which if you guys are using SQL Base and you haven't checked that out yet, you definitely should for a couple of reasons. One is the Unicode enabling, but also the performance and the number of concurrent users that can be handled has been enhanced quite a bit there. And so everyone I talked to that's been looking at this release has been very pleased with the performance results they're getting from this over the older versions and the number of users it can handle. In fact, for those, we had several questions about the Infor visual product on this webinar today. Infor has even already certified 11.5 for certain releases of their application. So keep that in mind. All right. With that, we wish you a good day and hope to hear from you in the future.
Thank you very much.